So being around Sarah Beth Nelson tonight has made me think of a library story to tell very quickly before I tell my story. I was the teen rep when I first started in the library at Gwinnett. I got hired, flew down from Buffalo. I was the teen rep at the public library in Gwinnett. And we had a Sharpie tie-dye event, and it was all girls. All girls, only girls showed up at like teen events. And like I don't know shit about girls, my age, let alone teen girls. So I just like let them do their thing. And the Sharpie teen event was mid-July. Maybe 90, 92 outside, but we didn't have any place to do it outside, so we were going to do it in the branch in the nice air conditioning. Now, a Sharpie tie-dye event is basically alcohol and Sharpie, but it doesn't like smear like, the tie-dye crap, so it's better. Air conditioning broke that day, but there were so many people signed up for the event, the manager wouldn't let us cancel it. There were 30 girls, Sharpies and tie-dye and alcohol, no air conditioning, no ventilation. I had to pull over driving home because I was so high, and they were like completely oblivious to it. It was the most unbelievable thing ever. And that was a very dysfunctional library, which is why I found myself without a library job after roughly a year waiting for a new one. So that was kind of an interesting summer. It was kind of a rough summer. And I thought back, I was like, I wanted to do something different for a little while, so I went through my contacts. And I remember this guy, Scott. I helped him out back when I was in grad school. He was one of those guys who was just kind of an asshole, and you kind of forget about him once you leave, but, he always kept in touch. And we did some work together. Basically, we flipped products from Budweiser. They would put a new line in. We'd take that old line, pay him less than scrap, and either flip it around, and we made a decent profit. And he's like, hey man, I got some work out for you in Buffalo. And I was like, great, I can come home, I could visit home, and I could do some work. And I thought I would be in a cushy office, making these deals, and everything would be great, and I'd have a few weeks home for the summer. And he had other ideas. I got there, and I was immediately on a demolition site. We were demolishing a restaurant. And literally 10 minutes after I got there, I drove from Barnes & Noble in Beaufort all the way through the night to Buffalo, straight through on Red Bull. And I got there, and the first day we're taking down this restaurant, literally 8 minutes after I had introduced myself, I was in a Caterpillar with no training whatsoever. And the only guy that would he's like, come on up. And I was like, okay. And he's like, all right, start. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. The only guy, he just said, he's like, all right, man. He's like, just think of it like an Atari control. He's like, just go back and forth like this, and you can start raking shit up. And I was like, all right, whatever. So that's how I started this job. And I was like, I'm just completely out of water. So the rest of the summer, my job was to, I was basically like the water boy of the demolition crew, where I would just I would take down the bar. It was like my area while everybody else was demolishing whole walls and buildings. So I would take out my lack of library job frustration on this wall. And about a week into that work experience, that summer job, I found a respite for the summer that just helped me through that 3-week time when I was doing this terrible job and realizing that this wasn't what it panned out to be. And that respite was beer league softball. My brother was on a beer league softball team, and I went out to a game, and I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. I love baseball. I started keeping score of beer league softball. And pretty soon, everybody got to know me, and I was like, all right, and I'm thinking of beer league softball while I'm operating circular saws and Caterpillars and sledgehammers during the day at work. And I'm just I'm starting to get obsessed with it. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm scouting other teams. And every time we'd go back to play beer league softball, we would get the biggest stink eye from all the parents because we played on Little League fields. So all the Little League fields would be there, they'd be there and watching their kids play, and here's 20 pharmacy students and dental students just carrying cases of beer, traipsing through their fields with cases and cases of beer. And they just hated us. And finally, there was a guy that was too drunk to play, so I got in the game. And I didn't have anything, so I borrowed my brother's glove. And he hated me by this point. He was pissed because I borrowed his glove. And then I was like, all right, I need spikes. I borrowed his spikes. Little did I know they were golf spikes. So I got my brother's golf spikes on and his glove. Great. So everybody on that team desperately tried to hit the ball to me in right field, just try to make me look like an ass. And I was like, don't even hit it to me. I'm like trash talking back and forth. And my brother literally switch hits just to make sure that he's hitting it towards me. So I'm in right field. I'm running in golf spikes after this pop fly. And I just throw my glove up and snow cone it and totally rob him. And the look on his face made the summer absolutely worth it because I was so shocked I caught the ball. I just kind of stayed there. And it looked like I was gloating with the snow cone catch. And that night he was so upset, and he literally dropped me. He threatened to drop me off in the worst neighborhood of Buffalo as we were going back to my house. And he basically yelled at me. He saw through the bullshit of this terrible summer job, and he's like, "Listen," he's like, "I will drop you off in this terrible neighborhood." That was basically East Atlanta, the Buffalo version. He's like, "Unless you get your life together." And I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, I do not want to be doing this for the rest of my life. And 2 weeks later, I got another library job, which is where I still am today. So things work out, and thanks very much.